All right, this is Roger V. Kahle in the Royal Examiner Video Studio with Lieutenant Robbie Seal, formerly with the Front Row Police Department,
Yes.
now, as we can see, with the Warren County Sheriff's Office. And I believe you've taken the same position with the county that you had with the town as the Community Resource Officer.
Pretty much, Roger. It's really defined in the same mix of what the Community Resource Officer, or CRO, as I use it as acronym, is. And yeah, for the 5 years that I performed the CRO functions with the town of Front Row Police Department, I'm now at the Warren County Sheriff's Office. Our elected new Sheriff Mark Butler actually saw exactly the work that I was doing with the town, and the relationships that were created, with the work that I did, and he wanted that exact same thing over at the Sheriff's Office. So thus he recruited. It took some doing. I was happy with the town for the years I've been there, but he really nailed
Made you an offer you couldn't refuse?
Well, and the offer, believe it or not, and as far as salary, everything pretty much is even across the scale. But really, he really tapped into my weakness, and my weakness is the inability to say no to a challenge. And challenge being is reaching out further into the countywide. Now, when I talk about some of the things that I do as a liaison between the law enforcement agency that I represent and the community that I want to work with to bring that partnership together. And for one example is our senior citizens. I'm very passionate about our seniors out there, and they're the most vulnerable group in society who are taken advantage of.
I'm feeling increasingly vulnerable as I age.
Yes, absolutely. And I consider myself a junior senior. I'll be 60 here shortly, but and people get a kick out of that comment. But yeah, it's a means for me to go out further into the county for those seniors I have not been able to reach, because obviously we're just located in the 10 or so square miles of the town of Front Row. And of course, even though I go monthly to the Warren County Senior Center, instruct on scams, and talk to our seniors about different topics that concern their lives, I'm not reaching all our seniors. And the vision we have at the Sheriff's Office is going out into the county, community centers, churches, where seniors that cannot travel into town.
And may be stuck in more remote places.
Absolutely,
Harder
and
to get around.
we can go out there. We're public servants. We should be going out to our public. We shouldn't be requiring our public to come to us. So that's our philosophy, and we've done that and we're working to do that as far as getting out there. And I'm just talking in just one facet as far as our senior citizens.
And that's sort of what I was going to get at and try to understand what you're already addressing, is how somewhat has the move from departments, across departments in law enforcement in the community, changed what you do? I guess you were focused more within the town before, or did you go out into the county some?
Well, no, actually everything was within town. And if we tried to focus just much like the resources, SALT Triad, actually, that's a chapter that's run by the Warren County Sheriff's Office. But I was involved with that as the CRO with the police department. And they're actually, SALT is an acronym for Seniors and Law Enforcement Together. It's actually a program run by the Virginia Attorney General's office. And sheriff's offices, police departments around the Commonwealth form chapters, if they're willing to do so, that involves people in the community with law enforcement that have the passion to help our seniors. So in essence, when we talk about what I was doing with the town, it is really more so defined within town. But when it came to trying to reach out of town, I couldn't necessarily go out of town because my work was in town.
Mm-hmm. As I recall, the sheriff's office can operate, give tickets, do whatever in the town limits, because the town is part of the county. But
Absolutely.
The town police can't really do it outside the town limits.
Right. Absolutely. Usually,
So it works for you too.
Yes, exactly. And the transition, it's the same concept of what I'm doing with the sheriff's office, but of course now I have a whole county, including the town, that really I work to be the liaison, again, the community outreach liaison, in building those relationships, those partnerships with the community. And the one thing I've seen since, and of course I started January 1st, the one thing that I've seen, I was when I retired in 2013, back then former Chief Norman Shiflett came up, and his administration came up with the idea of a community resource officer. And the sole purpose was to create that liaison, that partnership. And it really evolved because of what was going on in the world as far as the relationship between communities, whether it be minorities or communities in general, with law enforcement to enhance a better relationship. And so a lot of the agencies were looking at a point person within their agency to develop those relationships.
Make people, young people, people across the community understand law enforcement is not their enemy, it's their friend.
Exactly. So back then, under Chief Kahle, it was implemented, town council approved the position, and of course, I was hired to fill that position and came back to the police department.
What year was that?
That was 2015.
2015.
And it's a part-time position.
That's what I was going to ask you next. Is it part-time or
It is a
full-time?
part-time.
Part-time at the town and at the county?
Absolutely. It's a part-time position. Realistically, it could easily be a full-time position for everything that it entails in what a community resource, whether it be officer, deputy, what have you. When we start talking about liaisons, it's everything. 33 years in the field, Roger. I mean, it's ongoing. 33 years in law enforcement. I retired at 20, almost 29 years. And so part-time the last 6 years, 5 or 6 years. And I've learned more about community policing. Law enforcement across the country has developed for years the concept of community policing. And what that entails is the positive interaction with the public and what we do. And developing that relationship. But until I really started working as the community resource officer at the town of Front Royal, I really never got a true idea what community policing was until I started, and I actually think I took it a step further than what our administration really wanted with the position, because there's one thing to say you interact with the public, just like all our patrol officers do, but when you get involved, and totally involved. I mean, we're talking about organizations in our community that had the same mission, same vision, same passion to help our elderly, to help our youth, to help our homeless, to help our poverty. These are organizations that I actually am involved with.
Are there organizations that you liaison with, like say there's senior centers where the seniors may gather, but other groups that you might be trying to reach, youth groups, I guess, perhaps through the school system, but others, there's people across the board that you're going to be communicating with?
It's a Warren Coalition is a perfect example. They're totally organized because for our youth, for all the good things that can be done to aid our youth in our community. And not only it's more so than just saying, oh, well, I know Krista Shiflett with the Warren Coalition and some of the other members of the coalition. No, I'm actually involved with them. I go to their monthly meetings. I sit down with them. And, and there's another group we just got started 4 or 5 months ago. We actually call ourselves the Poverty Group. Something maybe we're going to form. Maybe it'll form into a 501c. But this is a group of individuals. You got people from all walks of life, from the school system, advocates, domestic violence, what have you, that sit on this, and we're talking about the issues concerning poverty, and then poverty includes our school children that are living in motels in town and that sort of thing. So we're looking at that. We're looking at the.
I mean, you hear about people with children living in cars.
Exactly.
In the area.
And this is a group that's looking at those issues. So. The one thing that I've seen more than anything with my involvement in the past 5 years and how this community resource position has developed to the point that organizations are reaching out more so to me as the point person back when I was with the police department, and now in just 2 months with going on 2 months with the sheriff's office, to be involved with the organization. Because in an organization, when conversation takes place, a lot of it or some of it sometimes involves questions that are really pointed toward an answer from law enforcement. And how nice it is, and how many times people have told me how refreshing it is that we have a law enforcement officer amongst our midst within our membership. So that's exactly what it's all about.
Well, I've noticed one thing. It's budget season.
Oh, yes.
Not my favorite time of the year, and not everybody's favorite time of the year in municipal service. But I was looking at the Front Royal budget, and I was looking at the police department, and I noticed a part-time position line item 41003, salaries part-time. Last year, or in this current budget, it was $46,375, and next year it's zero. Well, I called the chief up and asked him what the position was, and lo and behold, it's your old position. It's the Community Resource Officer. And I just was wondering, what do you think about a proposed budget? And I don't think this originates in the police department, but your position not being replaced.
Well, I know when I accepted the position to go to the sheriff's office, I had talked with administration at the police department, and really the conversation was, I hope, and of course there was a lot of things in the air with the budget coming up and that sort of thing. And I said before I left, I said, I really hope that this position is filled. It needs to be filled. It's been such a tremendous road building. And when we start talking about what's going on with some of the issues with the budget and town of Front Royal, decisions being made by council and everything, and restructure, whether it's streamlining or what's the word? I guess it's been used. Outsourcing. In order to look at our infrastructure issues, roads, what have you. Realistically, if the police department does not fill this position, then
they can just refer everybody to you.
Well, yeah, but that road is closed. That's a road that's closed. That is a road that's closed, that's been built for the last 5 years in establishing that relationship in the county with all these organizations that have the same common cause as the police department does in working to better the community.
And I'm getting the feeling that you don't believe that it's logistically possible to do what you need to do throughout the county and in the town.
Sheriff Butler would love the fact that his CRO is working every aspect of the county, including the town. However, I am part-time.
Yeah.
I am part-time, and it's gotten to the point.
And I would imagine with some of the logistical issues you talked about how the county's spread out, and sometimes people can't get places. Doing certain things that you did at the town with the county may take you longer to do.
Well, exactly. I mean, you're talking about a vast, geographical area that I've got to go out to. I mean, one of the things we're doing, our subdivisions, our HOA, that HOAs, that homeowners associations that exist. I just went to a HOA board meeting the Wednesday night, and that's again another concept idea of what community outreach is going to these board meetings, finding out what the issues are, what can we do better as your sheriff's office to assist you or remedy you or address the concerns in your subdivision, in your neighborhood. So those are ideas that we're doing, and I'm part of that. I'm the point person. I want to be the point person to be able to sit in these HOA meetings and hear the concerns and the requests that they have, so I can bring it back to the sheriff's office, much like I do at the police department. When I dealt with, when I went into the schools or what have you, the groups that were looking to get more police department participation, I shared that information, took it back to the police department, shared it with the staff there, and then we initiated what we had to address those concerns.
Now, when you talked to administration at the police department that you were thinking about making the move, and Sheriff Butler was interested in creating what they had, was there any talk about in the short term how they would replace you, or are other people picking up parts of your duties? And how does that work?
Well,
with their regular
I know
jobs?
right now there are two individuals that I know about that have taken over some of the responsibilities of Community Resource Officer, and that's actually Chief Magalis and Captain Crystal Klein. They are actually, from what I understand, trying to do the best they can to address a lot of things that was on my plate.
And
when I was
just from
there.
interacting with them myself, I sort of got the feeling that they may have been stretched pretty thin before taking on your responsibilities.
And that's an understatement, by all means. Yeah, when I came back to through, like I said, I worked under 7 chiefs, and probably one of the things that I prided myself on, or I made a decision years ago, was I was happy as the road sergeant teaching young officers, hopefully, how to be the consummate officer out there on the street and dealing with the public. And I saw the headaches and the work that involved administration and the people that went in administration and how that work affected them. Not both mentally and physically. And
Administrating may not be the cush job some people think it is.
no, absolutely not for me. Not for me. And my hat's off to those that take that responsibility, overseeing a whole agency or divisions of an agency and making those decisions. So yes, they are taxed even before taking over some of the CRO's responsibilities. So, this is a position that is just.
So it makes you wonder if it's written out of the budget at this point in time. Are they even advertising for a replacement for you now? Or are they just waiting sort of in limbo to see what happens?
I have no idea. And I really haven't had any conversations with the staff over at the police department with relation to that. Just the fact, I think my last conversation with Captain Klein was it was up in the air whether that was going to be filled or not. So, and of course now just looking at the spreadsheet there,
Right.
It doesn't look like it's
There's
being
a
contemplated.
big blank space there.
Yeah.
So maybe just to sum up, maybe you can pretend you're back at the police department right now. Just briefly summarize what you just said about why you think maybe that should be reconsidered, writing that out.
Well, you just saying pretend that I'm back at the police department. I actually feel that I'm back at the police department still, because what's happened is, and I may have mentioned this before, with my transition over at the sheriff's office, because of that relationship that I developed with the community and other people hearing about that relationship, and Robbie Seal being the community resource officer for the police department, there are a lot of people calling the police department, asking for me by name, and the police department wants to sustain that relationship. It was their idea to come up with the CRO. It was their idea. Mm-hmm. They are the point agency that came up with this fantastic position, this idea to develop the partnerships with this community. I wanted to take it to a bigger level, a more challenge to take it countywide. And I have the opportunity to do that. But I would hate to see something that's been established for the last 5 years, and the ground that this agency, the Front Row Police Department, has made in working more cohesively with the community. I would strongly hate to see that disappear.
Did you get feedback from patrol officers, detectives, anyone about, say, over the 5 years that, I'm noticing a better relationship with the public when I show up for something, that, that maybe not this fear or hostility that, the police are here? Did you get feedback that you could see impact from what you were doing?
Oh, absolutely. And I'll use a simple example. The town of Front Royal, actually, of course, there's a lot of activities, a lot of events that go on at the gazebo. And one of the responsibilities I had was keeping a spreadsheet of working with Tina Presley on all the permits that came about that were approved for an event. For years, there was never monitoring by the police department on these events. I mean, we didn't know about them until we hit the road, and then next thing you know, there was an event. Oh, I didn't know that was going on. And then with some of these events, just like the Democrats
get a call to block the streets off for the parade to the event.
Well, that's a little bit different than something like that we knew. But much like some of the demonstrations, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, that can lead to a little disturbance, if you will. And we need to know that. We need to know that beforehand, not when we get the call. And so with the CRO position, and it really was established beforehand, and I took it over, but a monitoring of the events that took place, it relieved patrol of a lot of things when it comes to the awareness of that. Officers would come up to me, and that's an example with the event situation, because now we're aware of what's going on way ahead of time. I pretty much put it out there to staff to let them know, weekly reminder, these are the events that are going on, heads up, in case you get a call, whatever. So patrol's aware, they're informed. And I think that really is the basis of what the CRO did with the staff, the patrol officers within the police department, as well as the sheriff's office now, is keeping them informed of what's going on out there. These are men and women that are out there enforcing the law, answering service calls all the time. They're not totally involved in the events per se, unless it's a big event like a parade and that sort of thing, but they need to be aware of events that go on out here. They need to be aware, even more so, and I think a lot of officers have been more knowledgeable to know what organizations are out there. Instead, it used to be, when people would come up to us and say, yeah, I need help with drug abuse or a place to stay or anything like that. Officers would know maybe of a agency or organization that helps out, but they can tell you what the person much about them.
Right.
You know, and I was one of them. You know, for years, I was one of them. Yeah, you had CCAP, or you had the Warren Coalition. Yeah, I mean they helped the community. I think they help the youth and everything.
It's great to be able to point them in the right direction before they get to the jail. Now the jail's being proactive in programs for inmates, but you want to get them before they get there.
Oh yeah, and with community policing, with a liaison with the community, you develop that relationship. You gain knowledge of what our people are doing out here, people that are involved in organizations. You share it with your officers, your staff at the police department. Now they're more learned, and they can utilize those resources and know about those resources to educate other people that they come in with every day.
Well, Robbie, thanks for spending some time with us and explaining exactly what you do now with the Sheriff's Office and in the past with the Police Department. And hopefully the town administration will take this into consideration when they consider the budget this year.
I hope so. And you really, to all the citizens of Front Row out there, if you value relationships with your police department and what they're trying to do to work together with the community to better our community, you'll attend the council meetings and so forth on the budget process and fight for this position, because I'm a believer in it, because I've worked it and helped develop those relationships, and I hate to see it go to waste.
And I think you're doing a good job.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Thanks for being with us.
You're welcome.